It's finally hitting me. Welcome back, chat, to the final premiere for the Mushoku Monday series. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another trek, the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. Today we are on the third part of the side stories, going through those and checking them out. I think this one particularly, we have the Fangs of the Black Wolf, Nanahoshi, and we're going to wrap things up with, yes, a Roxy chapter. Didn't even plan that. It's like, good, we got Roxy at the very end, that saving the best for last. Let's get a Roxy chapter in here. But yeah, chat, this is it. It just hit me the moment that I started recording. This is the final, what I'm thinking is going to be the final premiere for the Mushoku Monday series. I mean, we're going to have things in the future, by the way. I don't know if I ever clarified that. We still have redundancy. They're having a fourth one, and there could be more stuff after that. Of course, there's going to be whatever, Refugin does for its sequel. We can get in that stuff as well. But this is like the final for now. The final premiere, because I'm pretty locked on in this point that we're going to end up doing a live stream next week. So let everybody know, if you know anybody that has been watching the Mushoku Monday series and they stopped watching the premieres, let them know that we'll be here next week for, I'm pretty sure, I'm 90% sure that we're going to be doing a live stream. So people can get on here, we can chat, full on spoilers open and everything. I'm potentially going to be doing some tier listing for all the different characters, which gives kind of an excuse to talk about every single character, which that could honestly, in my mind, lead to a potential 2-part live stream. I don't know if we can get through all the characters with the live stream, with the chat and everything like that. It depends on how much people talk, because I love to yap with people in the live stream chat, typically with my live streams. So we could end up having a lot of discussion about different characters, which could lead to multiple live streams. We'll see. We're just going to play it by ear. We're just going to play it as it goes. Whatever happens, happens. But yeah, that all said, this will be the final of the premieres for the actual content that we're going to be covering until further notice. But I thank you guys so much for, joining me for this entire journey. Greatly appreciate you guys' support, your kind words, all that stuff. It means a great deal to me. And yes, most importantly, greatly appreciate everybody that supports channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Last week we had Soundwave with a super and Makoto-sama with a super. Thank you guys so much. You guys mean a lot to me. But with that said, let's get to the last of this. let's just finish this. Let's just conclude this whole thing. But our first one we have is Aren't You Being Deceived? Which again, I think is a Fangs of the Black Wolf chapter. Let's dive into it. Hey everyone, listen up. I have some good information. It was a midsummer afternoon. The summer in the King Dragon realm was much hotter than we had imagined. Rumor had it the area was a desert a few hundred years ago, and it was easy to believe. Honestly, my real feelings were that I didn't want to do anything until this heat passed. That being said, Zenith, our little sister figure of the party, Fangs the Black Wolf, had gone out of her way to gather information for us, so the least we could do was listen to her. Rejected. It's probably some trivial request, right? What do you expect us to do in this damn heat? Oh, come on. At least hear me out until the end. Oops, I let my real feelings slip due to the unbearable heat. Seriously, Paul, stop bullying Zenith.
This man's really childish. At least listen to her.
Zenith says it's good information. Elise, Talhan, and Ghislaine each gave their straightforward opinions. Alright, it's my fault. I'm kidding, so what's this good information? I found us a job that'll make a lot of money. As soon as Zenith said that, we all slumped over the table. A job that would make us a lot of money. Well, sure, we're an adventure party. And not just any adventurers. We're S-class adventurers who mainly explore labyrinths. Labyrinth exploration is highly difficult, and only the most skilled adventurers can do it. But in return, we can expect to make a lot of money. However, it requires a lot of money for preparations. Sure, if we just went and did it without any prep, and happened to find a magic item, it would be like hitting the jackpot. But the world doesn't work that way. Most likely, we'd end up lost in a labyrinth, encounter strong monsters, and end up dying. And we just recently failed at the labyrinth exploration. Not that anyone died or anything. We just got beaten to the punch by another group. In the labyrinth, if you defeat the Guardian and extract the magical crystal at the deepest part, the labyrinth starts to collapse slowly. We sensed the signs of a collapse in the middle of exploration and escaped, only to find another group celebrating at the exit. In other words, they had beaten us to the Guardian and taken the magic crystal. Naturally, all of our preparations and efforts went up in smoke. This is kind of an interesting thing to note, because I think they mentioned this before, the idea of that core sort of being like the key point of it. But I don't remember specifically them saying that the labyrinth itself collapses. I'd assume that, yes, a lot of what builds the labyrinth, they've mentioned what builds the labyrinth itself is sort of this mana, and potentially what it's, infusing the walls with. It's sort of warping the actual structure of the labyrinth or the tunnels or whatever. But technically, we did have a case where, yes, we had the teleportation labyrinth. They defeated the Hydra. They left, And then Geese went out and found people to go back in there and take all the treasure out of it. So I feel like that's almost like an inconsistency there, but it could be an aspect that some places collapse quicker than others. We had spent a lot of money on preparations, expecting to reach the Guardian this time. With no return in our investment, we were currently short on cash. We weren't in debt, but we were taking on some random jobs to make ends meet. But that's definitely bullshit. It goes without saying, but being short on cash is something all adventurers have in common. A sweet deal for us is a sweet deal for everyone. Too good to be true stories always have a catch. We'll go rushing off, only to find ourselves face to face with another idiot misled by the same info. We find our way into the supposed treasure cave, only to find it's just a bear's den. If it turns out to be a thieves' hideout, we'll be even worse in trouble. Why are you so sure without even checking? Because I've experienced it before. After barely surviving, somehow wiping them out, and making it back, we found the guy who sold us information, smugly completing a thieves' extermination quest. What a joke, right? Annalise and Talhan seemed to recall the incident, judging by their grim expressions. Only Ghislaine seemed to focus on tonight's dinner, judging by the good smells wafting from the kitchen. She was practically drooling. If it was information from Geese, it might be different. But information you can get isn't something others don't already have. Real money-making opportunities are well hidden and never reach the surface. Zenith pouted and looked at Annalise and Talhan. Those two usually spoiled her, but this time they wore sour expressions. I mean, it's truthful. I mean, that's a good thing to be cautious of. If anybody can get the information, then why isn't everybody rushing over there? That's like the whole idea of like, I think about this every single time I hear those damn commercials about gold. Invest in gold. Gold is record numbers. It keeps soaring. Buy gold now because, my gosh, it's record numbers right now. It's like, then why are you selling it? Why are you selling it? Why would you as a company be selling gold when it's worth so freaking much and it keeps soaring? I don't know. It makes you kind of wonder about there. If anybody can have it, then why is it still there? Well, that's how it goes sometimes. It's a learning experience.
Don't feel bad. Take some time to learn how to discern whether information is true or not.
Indeed. Elaine nodded knowingly, but she was the one most likely to be deceived by false information amongst us. She was probably twice as likely to be fooled than Zenith. After Zenith, I was next. It's frustrating, but Annalise and Talhan rarely got tricked. Yeah, Annalise has been around for a long time, and Talhan's been around. They've both been around for a long time. They both are like the most long-lived people here.
That's not always the case.
We turned to see a familiar face at the entrance. Geese. This monkey-faced thief was the least likely to be deceived in our party. I mean, that's a two-parter. I mean, no, never mind. I was going to say it's a two-parter. One is because he's very clever. This is a guy that's deceiving people all the damn time. But it's really, truthfully, it's just the second part. Because the first part is facilitated by the second part. He's got somebody telling him, hey, be careful there. Now, granted, there was a period of time, especially right here, where the man god was not really communicating with him. Geese had found a party that he was enjoying being with and everything, but still. As usual, he walked in with an air of confidence. Ugh, it's hot. He didn't drink the water from the jug on the table with one gulp. So, what do you mean that's not always the case? Wiping his sweat, Geese spoke casually. I heard the same information earlier, and it checked out. The client is a court scholar from the King Dragon Realm. The job is to escort him while he investigates the ruins of Jamunda. It seems his superior has it in for him, and he got his request rejected by the Adventurers Guild. He had to find the adventurers himself, but he seems too suspicious, so no one took the job. Zenith just happened to pass by. So the court scholar's boss pulled the strings to block his request? Is such a job even safe? Hey, does Adventure Guild have a rule against helping people in need? No, right? There's also no rule against being paid for helping someone in need. I don't think I ever actually really realized that, but yeah, technically, like, do you have to go through the Adventure Guild? You don't necessarily have to. No, there isn't. So, what's the reward? Brace yourself. Actually, I'll let Zenith tell you the rest. He's like, here you go, girl. You got the right information. Go ahead. At Geese's word, Zenith puffed out her chest and stepped forward, clearing her throat. Hey, everyone, listen up. I've got some great news. Want to hear it? What is this? What is this? Hey guys, I got some great news. Like, let me restart, I guess. Zenith declared this with a smug look on her face. We exchanged glances. Oh, seriously, Zenith, definitely tell us. As expected of Zenith, your information gathering skills are on par with Geese's. I'm impressed.
What kind of information is it? I'm so excited, I might even get drunk without even drinking.
Indeed. We all turned to Zenith, showering her with flattery. Well, except for Ghislaine, who was sniffing towards the kitchen.
The ruins of Jamunda are said to have been built by a subterranean demon king, Largan Hargan, during the first human-demon war. Look at the moss-covered surface. There's hardly any structure left. It was probably a castle or fortress, but it's almost completely weathered away. However, behold this massive, impressive underground fortress. This is undoubtedly the work of a subterranean demon king. He established his base underground and advanced his troops by digging tunnels towards the enemy.
Currently, we're at the ruins of Jamunda. This explanation is being excitedly given by the scholar behind us. Well, this massive underground fortress is indeed impressive. Even after thousands of years, it still retains its shape. Although it's pretty worn out, you can tell many soldiers used to be here fighting against humans, but now it's mostly the shadow of its former self, a den of monsters. Yeah, I think this is what they kind of got into. Was it the same ruins that were in Volume 7? They've talked about this several times throughout the series, this idea of this demon king that was, going underground and everything like that. It was a great way of getting underneath all the fortifications of the humans, just going underneath it. An incredible asset to a war. Annalise, I know. We were surrounded by a swarm of giant centipedes. The centipedes, about 2 meters long, form swarms in caves and are aptly named giant centipedes. Over here. Annalise provoked the centipedes, drawing their attention. Ghislaine and I took the chance to strike.
Stone cannon!
The centipedes attacking us had their heads destroyed by Talhan's magic and fell silent one by one. Any more? After quickly defeating the swarm, we remained alert for the next wave. The most common cause of death in monster battles is letting your guard down, especially after defeating a group of monsters and taking a breather, only to be attacked from behind. Monsters are surprisingly cunning and sneaky. Some will use a decoy to call for reinforcements and surround you with a dozen or so. Well, there are quite a lot of centipedes in this fortress. I mean, they've kind of talked about that a little bit. It was mainly with Roxy when she was in the teleportation labyrinth. This idea of how, they were seemingly working together. They were seemingly working together to sort of create waves against her to get past her defenses or her offense, basically. But it's always odd to hear, though, the idea these monsters have some sort of intelligence. I think it's more of like a hive mentality, especially with labyrinths, but still. With this many of one kind of swarming together, there wasn't much room for other monsters. It's clear. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief when Ghislaine, who was the most sensitive to their presence and had a keen nose, said that. It's sad to see the former Demon King's castle end up like this, Annalise said, nudging a centipede's corpse with her toe. Giant centipedes are common monsters in the forest around here. They're only rank D at most, but they have poison, and they often move in groups of 2 or 3. It's rare to see them breeding in such large numbers. If these ruins were closer to human settlements, there might have been a request to exterminate them. No kidding, it was good they were just centipedes. But if they'd been stone biters, it would have been terrifying. The artistic and historical buildings of the subterranean demon king, Largan Hargan, would have been lost. Oh my, we agree on something. So, scholar, after this job is done, how about we chat at the inn? Just the 2 of us. I refuse. I need to astonish them with the documents I'm supposed to find here. I have no time for that. Oh, how cold. The dude just straight rejected her. Few men can brush off Annalise's advances. This scholar must have his own troubles, probably power struggles and all that. If he weren't so desperate, he wouldn't have hired adventurers through the guild. Power struggles are such a pain. So, where's these documents? Let's find them and get out of here. Hold on, calm down. There's a document from the first human-demon war era. Amongst them, one is seemingly written by a demon soldier. It's written in demon god tongue. It's a very grandiose style, with many poems, and seem like an ordinary diary. But my research shows that this is... Sorry, scholar, I'm not interested in historical discoveries. Just get to the point. What an impatient man. The theory leading to the conclusion is important. Muttering, the scholar looked at the piece of paper. This is the soldier's stomach. Seek the sacrificial offering that fill and nourish it, rising from the earth. The breath of frost. Do not uncover the ancient evil god's chamber. Do not provoke the evil god's wrath. If you anger the evil god, just pray and beg for forgiveness. What the hell does that even mean? This passage was long thought to be describing a soldier eating at a mess hall, getting a cold stomach, and praying in the latrine. People are most devout in the latrine. Oh yeah, I see that. But my research has revealed something. This was written by a demon, covered in fur and resistant to cold. Moreover, he also had a bad appetite and never got diarrhea even after eating obvious poison. So what? He didn't get diarrhea in a dining hall. He found something related to an evil god in the dining hall and sealed it away so that others wouldn't find it. Isn't that a bit of a leap? You can interpret that however you like, right? Yes, that's why I'm here to verify it. Yet Formungus opposed me because he didn't want his theory disproved. Alright. So, where's this evil god's bedchamber? That's also your job to find. Now, get to work. Okay. With that remark from the scholar, we began examining the large room that supposedly was a mess hall. That's very interesting to kind of draw that conclusion from that, because I kind of was trying to figure out what the hell he's talking about. We found the likely spot surprisingly quick. It was a place you wouldn't notice unless you looked carefully, but part of the floor was made with a more durable material than the rest. Even though it was a different material, it was still just rock. The only difference was the color. Of course, hitting and kicking it didn't produce any different sound. There didn't seem to be a hollow space underneath. You wouldn't even bother investigating it unless you thought there would be something underneath. But when Talhen uses earth magic to pry off the rock, there it was. A black, smooth stone with faint patterns etched into it. I'm wondering if they're implying this is a different metal similar to what Ruse ends up creating in the end. I kind of wonder. The patterns, similar to what's found in dismantled magic tools, were commonly known as magic circles. These magic circles were intricately drawn across several stone floors. This is amazing. It's a seal. It's quite old, but it's rare to find something this well preserved. So the evil god's bedchamber is under this, right? Let's pry it off. Wait, don't destroy this precious artifact immediately. We need to document it first. Paul's like, fuck. Just want to get this done. I didn't really get it, but it seemed this magic circle was important to the scholar. Since he was a client, I decided to comply. So we're taking a break then. Oh, I want to watch the scholar work. Zenith raised her hand as she spoke. Oh my, Zenith. I didn't realize you were so grown up enough that you'd flirt with a man that I had my eyes on. That's not what it's about. Zenith, puffing her cheek in anger, lightly slapped Emily's. It was harmless banter, knowing it was just a joke. I've always admired ancient ruins like these. You don't get many chances to visit a place like this once you become an adventurer, right? Isn't the idea of an ancient evil god exciting? Hearing that, I looked around. Maybe she was right. There was a time that I admired adventurers too. When I was a small child, I dreamed of exploring ruins like this, defeating ancient monsters, sealing away ancient evil spirits, and obtaining treasure that no one ever seen. But after becoming an adventurer, I was faced with reality. There was no unseen treasure, and most ancient ruins were empty. The central continent had been thoroughly explored. You might think I could just go in unexplored places, but once I became skilled enough to go anywhere, I realized that everywhere was the same. I mean, definitely agree here that they've implied that a lot of the labyrinth have already been explored. A lot of the locations and dungeons and places that you can go have already been places that people have gone to. I mean, we're talking thousands of years here. I would assume that some places you can have labyrinths being sort of created, but again, they've implied that labyrinths are sort of created by this influx of mana. Like again, with the Beggar Continent, it's this large monster that has some mana within it. It dies and it sort of creates a labyrinth through the creatures eating its body and going down in the ground. I guess it always comes down to how quickly these labyrinths are popping up. And yeah, I can see, especially in the central continent, that's not happening as much as elsewhere. That's why you have like a lack of monsters in general. It's just that they're all dead. But interesting to put that, now that he has the skills to go anywhere, he finds that everywhere is the same. I mean, he never went to the Demon Continent. He never went there. And there's going to be definitely some different stuff there. People lived everywhere. Monsters existed everywhere. Everywhere, people struggled to adapt to their environment, and conflicts arose over money and power. In unfamiliar lands, you might find something seemingly new, but the essence was always the same. I guess that's sort of the answer to it. Even if I go to the Demon Continent, it's the same. Everything's the same, it's just different faces to it, I guess. That didn't mean there wasn't any fun. An S-rank adventure party focused on labyrinth exploration was exactly what I had admired, and we had a beautiful elf, a grumpy dwarf, a silly beast folk, and a cheerful demon. With such a fun crew, adventures were never boring. Aww. Even though the world's all the same, I got my crew. Yeah, I always wanted to come to ruins like this when I was a kid. Now, I know there's nothing left in these ruins. There's nothing valuable here. If I'd boasted about exploring these ruins in a tavern, I'd just get laughed at. But as I took a moment to look around and think about our situation, I felt a little tingle in my heart. Think about it. We're on the verge of discovering an evil god's bedchamber in a long-explored ruins. And it's not just a wild guess. We've actually found what seems to be a seal under the floor. What's this? Are you interested too, Paul? Before I knew it, I was peering over the scholar's shoulder, and Zenith was giving me a knowing look. It's not like that. I just thought that I should keep an eye on you, so you don't bother the client. Right. That's harsh. If you're interested, just say it. The scholar will tell you all about it. I'm more interested in new labyrinths than just some old ruins. Oh, come on. I chuckled and started walking through what used to be a dining hall. At the entrance, Ghislaine stood guard with her arms crossed. I couldn't fathom what she was thinking about. The only thing that I knew is that she was surprisingly passionate during her mating season. My God, dude. Ghislaine, do you ever dream of exploring ruins like this when you were a kid? No. My homeland had many ruins like these. I was an outcast in my village, so I often slept in such a place. I have no longing for them. Interesting. I don't think she ever mentioned the idea of living in some sort of ruins. Because I would imagine with like a lot of the ruins in the Beast Folk village, it would be stuff that's underground. And a lot of those areas are going to end up being flooded most of the time. But I guess they could have above ground ruins. Oh, I see. I prefer labyrinths over ruins. Really? That's unusual. Why? Remember the labyrinths we once explored? The ones that felt like a beach? The rippling wave labyrinth? We ventured in that labyrinth after becoming S-rank adventurers. The entrance was a cave near the coast. The first level was a narrow maze of exposed rock, but the second level was completely different. A light source, like the sun, appeared on the ceiling, illuminating a beautiful white sandy beach below. The monsters were the kind that you'd find near the shore, making us momentarily think that we were outside. That's weird. Granted, we only really have a few examples, like the teleportation labyrinth, and the one that Bodygotti and Geese went to, which the one that Bodygotti and Geese went to was very unique. Again, it was underwater, and it was like built in a way that almost had like this gravitational pull in the opposite direction. So magic obviously does some weird things to these locations, but they never implied the idea of like essentially themes. A beach theme labyrinth. It is actually very, very interesting. The dazzling sunlight, glittering white sand, and the blue sea were breathtaking. We were all stunned by the labyrinth's beauty. I'd heard about places like that, but seeing it was a first for me. It made my heart race. Back then, Ghislaine had been splashing around the water's edge, her tail wagging vigorously, even though her face remained stoic. And the crab monsters, they were delicious. Of course, it comes down to food. Well, they were tasty. Yeah, they were great. They looked poisonous, but they made excellent snacks with alcohol. You wouldn't normally eat such grotesque monsters unless you were in a place like that. Taking a hesitant bite, expecting the worst, and then finding it surprisingly delicious. That's an experience unique to labyrinth exploration. Today's a dud. Centipedes taste awful. Ghislaine chuckled softly as she said that. Dorky. Once the transcription was finished, we were now at the stage of prying off the sealed stone floor. Even though it was sealed, the magic had already dissipated, so it was relatively easy to pry off. Relatively easy, but since the scholar forbade us to use magic to avoid damaging whatever was inside, we had to break and remove the stone bit by bit. It was hard labor. Damn, this dude's making a lot of demands. I could manage with my strength, but Zenith's hands were probably going numb. She had a pained expression. This isn't what I signed up for, her face seemed to say. Of course, this isn't a fairy tale, where a magic phrase makes the stone floor light up and crumble away. Just like I did, Zenith would gradually come to see the reality for what it was. That said, an evil god's bedchamber. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't interested. What did an ancient Demon King's soldier find here? And what terrified him so much that he sealed it away? I'm starting to kind of wonder who this evil god is and what they sealed away. I've seen plenty of reality, but there was moments like this where reality surpassed my imagination. So, what now? Under the sealed stone floor was a pitch black space, judging by the echo in our voices. It was about half the size of the dining hall, maybe a bit bigger than one of the rooms in the inn that we were staying at. It was small for an evil god's bedchamber, but it could be just one room. All right, go down there and check it out. And don't touch anything. Even the dust on the wall could have historical value. Yeah. Saying this, I grabbed the rope first. Normally, I'd be cautious, but my curiosity got the better of me. Yeah, I'd kind of wonder if there'll be anything in there alive. Unless it's like undead or something like that. With a torch in hand, I descended the rope. For some reason, the sensation of holding the rope felt more intense than usual. Once down, I held the torch in one hand and drew my sword, staying alert. I scanned the area, especially behind me, to ensure that I wouldn't be attacked from the darkness. It was a room. There was no other way to describe it. There was shelves, a desk, chairs, and a bed. Nothing particularly noteworthy about them. I mean, it lines up with what he said. It's a bedchamber. Nothing particularly noteworthy about them. The shelves, desk, chairs, and bed were plain and simple. It was too modest to be called an evil god's bedchamber. There are a few books on the desk and the shelf. That's probably what the scholar was after. There was also a door further inside, but based on my initial impressions, it was a bit of a letdown. All clear, no monsters. Hearing my words, the scholar descended first, followed by Elnace, Zenith, and Geese. The rest stayed to keep watch. We couldn't rule out the possibilities of other monsters showing up. Oh, this is amazing, incredible. The scholar, excited, examined the shelves and desk, carefully wrapping the books in a cloth and storing them away. Even without seeing inside the books, you could tell they're amazing, huh? Indeed. Even the furniture is remarkable. Look at this desk's material. It's made from a type of wood that I've never seen before. The materials on the wall, too, probably dates back to the first Human-Demon War. These plants no longer exist. Plants? Well, there's plants that can survive down there? And do you see the magic circles in the room's corners? They draw in surrounding magic, maintaining the space semi-permanently. I mean, that could be maintaining the stuff from decaying and technically keeping the plants alive. This room existed even before the Demon King Largan built the fortress. Oh, I see. The scholar was excited, but I had no idea what he was talking about. It just looked like a simple room to me. Hey, look at this, Paul. Zenith, who I thought had been disappointed, was squatting by a chair. The leg was broken and then repaired. The evil god seemed to take good care of his things. That's an interesting note. Even an evil god wouldn't want to balance on three-legged chair. But there was something off. Something felt off. What's wrong, Elnise? Oh, nothing. I just thought that it was an old but nice bed. Elnise was staring intently at the bed. She just wants to try out the bed. It was just a dusty bed, but maybe she could just see something I couldn't, given her experience with beds. Elnise recognizes the build of that bed. I've been on one of those ones. But maybe she could see something I couldn't, given her experience with beds. Hey, Paul. Amidst this, Geese called my name in a slightly hushed tone. And Scholar, you might have noticed this too. With a pale face, Geese continued. There are no footprints, but the dust build up. And the repaired chair indicates this place isn't that old. Someone was here a few decades, maybe even just a few years ago, and they did some light cleaning. So that means there's a chance that someone can come through that door at any moment. Someone using a sealed room in a deserted underground ruin. A chill ran down my spine. The evil god's bedchamber is someone from an ancient demon army labeled it such. It's proof that either the evil god or his followers were still alive. So, what's behind that door? Hey, Scholar. Yes? Can I open it? I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious. To be honest, I had a bad feeling about this. Some part of me suggested we should be satisfied with just the books and leave without opening the door. I mean, the only person I could think of right now is going to be Orsted. I can see them calling him an evil god. And again, he's a dragon god. But, I mean, not to say they're going to run into Orsted right now, but he could be going there on a regular basis. Of course, it might be overthinking. Maybe this so-called evil god once existed, but now it's connected to some cave or labyrinth where some adventurer used it as a temporary shelter. But what if it isn't? Am I going to cowardly tell the Scholar? Let's turn back now. Why did I want to become an adventurer and come to a place like this? Something inside me was shouting, I'm an adventurer. I'm here to see something that I've never seen before. So, without waiting for a reply, I opened the door. Hey, can I open this? Why do you even bother asking? So in the end, there was nothing. The other side of the door was filled with rubble. Being underground, it wasn't surprising that a collapse had occurred. But it was still anticlimactic. Maybe someone who had used that room had moved out and sealed the entrance. But the truth was shrouded in darkness. Now we're back in town, drinking in a tavern. The King Dragon realm was just as hot and human as ever. And even Ghislaine, who usually didn't show much expression, was fanning herself at her chest. Damn, what a letdown. No twist, no nothing. Geese grumbled as he gulped down some mud-like liquor. To be honest, I also thought that we'd find something after going that far. You too, Ghislaine? Yeah, I had a feeling. Even Ghislaine had the feeling. I mean, they technically did find something. It's just not what they wanted. Again, I think that's probably going to be some sort of, like, significant location. Again, probably somewhere where Orsted was regularly coming there and studying some stuff. Or this could be Laplace's little chamber where he was doing a lot of studying. Again, at some point, cleared it out. And again, that could explain why potentially, Elnise recognizes it. We parted ways with the Scholar once we reached town. We got our payment. For a job like that, the amount was more than satisfactory, and we should have been more content. Exploring ancient ruins, breaking obvious seals, only to find a used-up room. There's not a hint of romance in it, Talhan said, echoing our sentiments. What was written in that book anyways? Geese, you got a peek, right? Huh? I couldn't make heads or tails of it. It was in a language I'd never seen. Yeah, it's going to be Dragon God tongue. So yeah, this is probably Laplace's place. Maybe that Scholar knows something. Let's ask Elnise tomorrow. On the way back, Elnise had seduced the Scholar again. He, perhaps in high spirits after finding the books, had disappeared in the night with her. She might have gotten some information in bed. The kind of info that she gets in bed is usually just the client's bed romantics. Yeah, she listens to the men bragging in bed, but she hardly remembers any of it. All she thinks about is making the guy feel good. You only think about making yourself feel good? Even Ghislaine's getting on the jokes now. I poked her chest, and she slapped my hand away, but she was smiling. It was rare to see her join in on lewd jokes. Maybe this time she had some expectations too. Why was that? We're veterans. We don't usually get disappointed, even when labyrinth explorations fail. But it was really exciting, wasn't it? Zenith said this, holding her cup of muddy liquor in both hands and looking at her reflection on the surface. Then she raised her head and spoke with broad gestures. After all, we found an even older sealed room in the depths of the ancient ruins. I don't know much about history, but it made my heart race. There's still so much like that left in the world. At her words, I exchanged glances with the others. Somebody that's not disillusioned yet. Paul earlier was talking about how he's disillusioned to, ever finding anything new. Zen's over here oh, this is cool. Something new. We found something. Then we all gave a slight wry smile and patted Zenith's head one after another. Hey, don't ruffle my hair. It's getting all messy. In the end, that was the answer. We were all excited and expectant, acting beyond our years. Yeah, that's what being an adventurer is all about. All right, let's start preparing for another labyrinth exploration tomorrow. Everyone nodded at my words. As long as we could still taste the excitement of discovery and unknown, we can continue being adventurers for a long time to come. Aww, cute. Zenith is trying to get everybody back to their old ways of being excited about things. I think there is an element there, especially with, like, I think it's for anybody, really. Like, you do a job for a long time and you start to lose sort of the excitement about the job, and having somebody new kind of pop in sort of gives you that re-spark about, like, oh, I miss this old thing about me. This old thing where I used to be excited about what was to come. It's a cool idea. It's a cool idea. And yeah, again, sort of hinting at the idea of them potentially finding what I'm assuming is probably referencing to Laplace and all the stuff that he was bringing together to study and whatnot. So cool. Decent little chapter there. We didn't really get enough of like the Fangs of Black Wolf. And that was kind of something that I kind of wish that Refugien would eventually do, is do that story of Paul's life. I would love that to be done by Refugien. Not the mobile game version that we went through, but like having Refugien really flesh out that story would have been really cool. I think ever since I was, first getting in the novel series, I wanted that. I wanted that back when I first, met Ghislaine and found out about the Fangs of Black Wolf. Like, I want a story about them. I want to see their story. So it's cool to get whenever we do get it. But yeah, let's move on to the Nanahoshi story. The silent 7-star diplomatic approach. A few days had passed since Nanahoshi's experiment succeeded. Nanahoshi had been in a good mood lately. After all, when things go well, people tend to feel good. The experiments are still ongoing, but it seems she was preparing something else, given a somewhat half-hearted impression. She even told me I didn't need to come for a while. This probably means that she'd move on to the next stage. However, since she recently collapsed, I still check on her in the lab every few days. Though she started appearing in the cafeteria, I still worry if she's eating properly. Humans need to eat. Whatever happens, you need to fill your stomach first. As the old saying goes, you get irritable when you're hungry, and when you're irritable, you get hungry. So today, as usual, I head to Nanahoshi's lab. I thought I'd knock. After all, I was entering a room of a girl who was a high school student in her previous life, so knocking was only natural, so I hadn't forgotten. Probably. Even though there was no response, I gently peeked inside. It might have been a bit impolite, but if she had collapsed, it'd be no big problem. I was the only one checking in on her after all. But what I saw was something I shouldn't have. Nanahoshi. That Nanahoshi. Here, kitty kitty, come here. She was on all fours, reaching out to a cat by the window. Meow meow, nya nya. She was even speaking in cat language. What a sight. The cat by the window, seeing Nanahoshi reaching out, raised its paw to swipe at her hand. But when it saw me, it paused for a moment. Then, sensing it was at a disadvantage, leapt out the window. Aw. Nanahoshi, with nowhere for her hand to go, lowered it in disappointment. Realizing what had scared the cat away, she paused for a few seconds. Then, she slowly turned to face me. You're dead. You're dead. What? It was the lowest voice I had ever heard from her. Nothing. Why are you here? Just checking in. I see. Nanahoshi replied curtly and sat down heavily on her chair. She rested her chin on her hand and avoided making eye contact. Do you like cats? Who doesn't like cats? True. I suppose most people do. Unless someone's pet bird was eaten by a stray cat. There was usually no reason to dislike them. I don't dislike them either. I'm more of a dog person, so it's not like I particularly love them. Well, either way, I'm not the type that animals generally like, so cats don't particularly fancy me either. But I'm glad you're well enough now that you want to pet a stray cat, Nanahoshi. I couldn't bear to see you like you were the other day. For that, I'm grateful, Nanahoshi said, looking slightly embarrassed. Since that incident, it seems Nanahoshi had opened up to me a little bit. However, I'm a married man now, and I hope she refrains from opening her collar to show me her chest. I'm weak to temptation. Right. Again, I do feel like at some point I got a sense that Nanahoshi really liked Rudius, but I think she still had that disconnection there. She just badly wanted to get home. And again, it goes back to that whole thing where I think even if she did want to get with Rudius, the world rejected her. She had to leave. Thinking that, I started the usual experiment, but The conversation died. I'm not particularly bad with silence, but if she opened up a bit, it would be nice to have some small talk. Though I doubt it's possible with Nanahoshi. She never leaves the room, so she probably doesn't know much about the outside world. Actually, no, I think she knows quite a bit. Again, she traveled with Orsted for the longest time. In that case, maybe I should warm up the atmosphere with one of my jokes. Oh god. Nanahoshi. What? Meow meow, nya nya. I got kicked out. So stupid, dude. It's so stupid. A few days later, as usual, I head to the cafeteria with Zenoba, thinking about having a nice leisurely lunch. Today's menu might be curry soup. It looks a lot like curry, but it's a bit mushy, and the flavors are so mixed up that it makes you furrow your brows. But if you don't think of it as curry, it's quite tasty in its own right. In front of me sat Zenoba and Julie. I filled up my stomach while watching a heartwarming scene I'd never seen in my previous life. A little girl gulping down alcohol with gusto. I was like, what? Like a connection between the two of them? Hey girl, wanna have some tea together, yeah? I'm gonna buy some meat for the stall. As I was thinking that, I noticed some delinquents harassing a regular student. It was Lenny and Persenna. Lenny Purr for short. Ah, how annoying. Why do those two always have to ruin my lunch? I really can't stand watching delinquents pick on regular students. This is like before he even gets with them. That's interesting. No, I thought that he made a connection with Lenny and Persenna before he met Nanahoshi. Yeah. I mean, they could still be picking on people and he doesn't like it. And this is the cafeteria too. It's especially unpleasant here. But those two truly aren't bad at heart. They don't seem to be extorting money or anything. If it were too severe, I wouldn't stay silent. The tea is really good, yeah, you know? It makes your tongue tingle and gives you a nice buzz, yeah. You'll definitely like it, yeah. Linnea, you're an idiot. You're the only one who likes that stuff. We're going to the stall. I already know Silent likes sweet potatoes. Wait a minute. They're harassing Nanahoshi? What should I do? Should I help her? But then again, Nanahoshi needs to expand her social circles a bit. But Lenny and Persenna, they were not the best company. Who's an idiot, yeah? Plenty of humans go to the shop, yeah? It's a popular place, yeah? Humans don't drink tea like you do. Then just drink something else, yeah? Besides, the sweet potatoes at the stall are completely different than the ones we had at Boss's house, yeah? Yeah, so this is after they met him. Just boiled in salt. Silent won't like them, yeah? You don't know because all you eat is meat, yeah? While Lenny and Persenna were arguing, Nanahoshi quickly finished her meal and left. Such a clean and artful disregard. Impressive. Their argument stopped the moment Nanahoshi left the cafeteria. After a sigh, they locked eyes on me. Oh no. Hey boss, if you're watching, you could have helped us. Here we go. Now they were bothering me. I'm still eating lunch and can't ignore them like Nanahoshi. I guess I'll have to deal with them. Help with what? Nanahoshi? You want me to tell her, Miss, leave these guys to me. Hurry up and leave. We're talking about us, of course. Silent went and talked to us. If she ignored you, why do you keep talking to her? Hearing this, they puffed out their chests proudly. These were some large chests. I wish they wouldn't flaunt them to a married man like me. I'm weak to temptation. Now you've charmed Fitz and taken the top spot, boss. We need to expand our territory. Exactly. Silent has connection with merchants. If she helps us, we can control the marketplace. We can even get cheaper meat. I see. It's the usual new leader syndrome. Why are beast folks so territorial and ambitious? Well, I suppose it's normal. I don't think she's interested in that. If she were, she'd already be doing it on a larger scale. She's already securing enough research funds with her modern knowledge cheat. She doesn't need unnecessary status, fame, or money to achieve her goal of returning to her original world. At least we want to be friends with her, Nya. Being completely ignored is tough, so I wish she'd pay attention to us. Persenna's nose made a sad sound. That's an absolute lie. Indeed, if you were to ask whether these two and Nanahoshi were acquaintances, well, they barely are. Maybe Nanahoshi could afford to give them a bit of attention. As a person, she could at least greet them. That said, she's not too keen on getting close to people in this world. And then I remembered something. I think it'll be hard to make use of her, but you might be able to become friends with her. Before I knew it, these words had come out of my mouth. A few days later, probably luring cats to her, I brought Lenny and Persenna to Nanahoshi's room. Nanahoshi's voice was even lower than last time, setting a new record. She probably had bad feeling as soon as she saw Lenny and Persenna. I did feel like I was handing my friend over to delinquents, but this shouldn't be a bad deal for either side. Silent, let me show you something, yeah? We're ready to welcome you. If this were a delinquent manga, there'd be a panel with a big question mark. Nanahoshi was visibly on guard. She turned half her body away, slipped her hand into her pocket, and grabbed something inside. It's gonna be a magic item. Relax, we won't do anything bad. Nanahoshi, think back. Since the day that we've met, have I ever done anything bad to you? As I said that, some of the tension left Nanahoshi's body. Her hand remained in her pocket, though. All right, I'm just following you. If this is a trick, I'll tell Fitz. No, I figured she'd probably say, I'll tell Orsted. Sure, once we get there, you can do as you please. When I said that, Nanahoshi nodded slightly. Behind her mask, her eyes glared at Linnea and Priscilla. She's really wary. Does this really sound like I'm tricking her? I wondered if I'm that untrustworthy. Maybe not. They say that women notice when they're being looked at lecherously. I might not be aware of it, but perhaps I'm unconsciously keeping an eye out for any accidental exposure around delicate areas. Okay. Well, you'll see when you get there. If I explained everything now, it's going to be a cat cafe. It's going to be a cat cafe. If I explained everything now, the impact would be less. The details come later. This time, I'll let her guard down as much as possible, then surprise her and slip into the gap in her defenses. And so, we made our way to the back of the cafeteria. This area is often used to temporarily store items delivered by vendors and large trash generation within the school, so it's filled with miscellaneous wood boxes containing unknown contents and broken tools. Now, speaking of behind the school, in my generation, it was a place where renowned freshmen from various middle schools would gather to settle who was the top dog through fights. The freshman who won the tournament would go to the rooftop to challenge the school's head, the ultimate boss. Okay, you're talking about a manga. Although the nuances behind the cafeteria and behind the school are slightly different, they were essentially similar. I don't know what kind of connotation behind the school has for Nanahoshi's generation, but either way, she was called to a secluded spot by delinquents. Nanahoshi must be terrified inside. With her hand in her pocket, gripping something, she kept glancing at me. She was on high alert, her gaze asking, "Is everything okay? You're not going to do anything, right?" Moreover, she occasionally whispered Orsted in a small voice, which made the timid me tremble uncontrollably. There it is. I was wondering when she's going to mention that. I'll send Orsted after you. I'll call Orsted. I mean, she technically did have something that she eventually gives to Rudius that calls him. So this could be that item. If by any chance Linnea and Priscilla misinterpreted the situation and tried to harm Nanahoshi, I must do everything in my power to protect her. Orsted is a no-go. I don't want Orsted. So, what's here? Why bring me to a place like this? Nanahoshi asked, trying to sound confident, while Linnea and Priscilla smirked darkly. It was foolish to follow us here so easily, nya. Indeed, Silent, you are already completely surrounded. This is a really bad thing to say. With their voices, the presence of others became noticeable around the area. Linnea and Priscilla's minions, gathered specifically for this occasion, began to show themselves. Nanahoshi's body tensed up, and rightfully so. Meow! From the shadows emerged a large number of cats. Moreover, the cats approached Nanahoshi without any wariness, tails raised, and began to rub their bodies against her legs. These are my friends from around town, nya. The boss told us that you wanted to get along with cats, so we went out and gathered them for you, nya. Wanting to be swarmed by cats is such an Asura noble's hobby. Nanahoshi was frozen in place. She was completely paralyzed. That's odd. I thought she would react with a, "Yay, kitties, so cute," and rush into the swarm of cats. Okay, I lied. Nanahoshi would never say something like that. She's not some delinquent from the Showa era, but I expected some kind of happy reaction. This is strange. Did I miscalculate? There's no need to resist, nya. Come on, sit down, nya. The sun is nice at this time. Perfect for a nap, nya. Nanahoshi, as told, sank wearily to the ground. Immediately, the cats climbed onto her lap, rolling over to expose their bellies, begging for attention, almost automatically, as if remembering that she was some kind of petting machine. Nanahoshi began to gently stroke the cats' bellies. Her hands moved hesitantly, though. You can be rougher, you know. They like it better under their arms, nya. Yeah, right there, nya. You're good at this, nya. You have a talent for petting, nya. nya. The heck? Just be quiet. Yes, nya. Silence and Linnea, who had started a weird commentary. Nanahoshi continued petting the cats in silence. Instantly, the cats didn't approach me. That wasn't part of the deal. Nanahoshi's face remained frozen, but she finally spoke. Speaking of which, beast folk can talk to animals, right? Even when we say talk, these guys don't understand words. It's more like we can sort of understand each other, yeah? It's not just beast folk that can do it. Even humans can kind of understand their intentions, and they can understand ours. Beast folk can just do it a bit better. Priscilla seemed slightly annoyed. When we discussed this plan, she had insisted it should be dogs, not cats, and was overruled. I like dogs too, but that doesn't mean that Nanahoshi does. She might like cats, but be afraid of dogs. Not everyone is like Asura nobles, who like anything with ears. I forgot that was reading there, bringing that up. Oh, man. Saros and Philip and all them. So, what do you think? If you become friends with us, you can do this anytime you want, yeah? Next time, we can use dogs. Nanahoshi was petting the cats, her eyes going blank. It seemed that even this wasn't enough to break down someone as tough as her. Not just petting. You can rub your cheeks against them too, yeah? They're clean and flea-free. Go ahead, dive in, yeah? Hearing this, Nanahoshi paused for a moment. Had she resisted the temptation? No, that wasn't it. Nanahoshi slowly removed her mask. She then brought her face close to the cat and buried it in the fur. Inhaling deeply. Finally, Nanahoshi had succumbed to the temptation, indulging in the cat's scent. Wow, she's bold, yeah? Whoa, boss, is Nanahoshi an Oscar noble? Oh, man. Oh, man. Maybe. With my nonchalant reply, Priscilla seemed to understand, nodding as if it made perfect sense. Having enjoyed the scent of the cats, Nanahoshi lifted her head and took a deep breath. Somehow, her cheeks seemed to be flushed. Once it comes to this, there's no going back. Poor Nanahoshi had fallen into the abyss. She becomes someone who dedicates all of her money she earns in their daily life to cats. Nanahoshi buried her face in the cat's once more, took a deep breath of its scent, and then lifted her head. There was no emotion in her face. It was void. She looked somewhat satisfied. Is she gonna sneeze? Is she gonna sneeze? Still petting the cat, Nanahoshi muttered quietly. So, what do you want? I mean, this could explain why she eventually gets some connections for Linnea. We just want you to introduce us to the merchants that you know, nya. We need a foothold to expand our influence in the shopping district, nya. We need to buy meat, cheaply. Don't worry, we won't do anything bad, nya. It sounded like they were full of bad intentions, but Linnea and Priscilla aren't the type to get into serious trouble. At most, they'll try to buy meat cheaply. They mean what they say. I really don't want to get involved in that kind of thing. Can you really say that, nya? With a meow from Linnea, the cats around Nanahoshi quickly moved away from her. Nanahoshi stiffened again as the warmth of her palms and lap vanished. Oh, I understand, Nanahoshi. I felt the same way the day that Edis suddenly disappeared. Aww. Well, maybe not exactly the same. Fine. I'm glad you understand, yeah. Reluctantly, Nanahoshi agreed, and the cats began to swarm back around her. What a cruel sight. This way, Nanahoshi can't resist anymore. I don't know many merchants in this town. I only know the ones that deal in clothing, so I don't think I can help with food. That's fine. We'll handle the rest, yeah. Contract established. From now on, you can come here freely and pet the cats. But it's better if you bring meat or fish. The cats have their moods. Also, they're not always clean, so I don't recommend you pressing your face against them. You might end up with fleas in your nose. As Priscilla briefly explained the terms, Nanahoshi replied with a yes, got it, while I watched blankly. Got her. They got her. What happened after Linnea and Priscilla got introduced to the merchants by Nanahoshi, I don't know. Whether they managed well or got banned for some misconduct, I don't know. The only thing that I know for sure was that Nanahoshi has occasionally been seen carrying a small package sneaking towards the back of the cafeteria. Nanahoshi probably still wants to return to their original world as soon as possible, but sometimes taking a break like this is important too. I thought so as I watched her. That's a good story. I kind of wish that was way back there during that period of time, though, because it kind of gives you a little bit of sense that there's something that she needs to have that'll take a break from things. Because, again, she had that big meltdown, and having something like this to be in there to sort of show that she's finding at least somewhere to get a relief is a good thing. It's good in the end, though. I like it. And then finally, the last chapter of Mushoku Monday content, Memories of Roxy. Rowan and Rakari sat down on the floor as soon as they reached their home. It was just after the boy named Rudius Grey Rat had left the village. She's alive. Yes. Yesterday, they had received some joyful news. Their daughter, Roxy Magurdia, was alive. How many years has it been? About 30, I think. It had been over 30 years since Roxy Magurdia had left the village. Back then, both Rowan and Rakari had mixed feelings. Roxy was born without the ability to use telepathy. She was the only one amongst the Migard tribe who lacked this innate method of communication. They learned spoken language and taught her everything she needed to do to live in a village using words, but even they could see that Roxy was not truly saved by their efforts. I mean, that's a good thing they've seen that. I mean, again, there's an indication that she just went up and left one day, didn't tell them anything, and it doesn't really give too much of an indication of sort of seeing that she was, in a better place before that moment came. The assumption is there that they would see that she's still suffering, that she wanted to get away, but still. She was an anomaly in the village. Many times she would cry asking, "Why is everyone so quiet? Is it because I'm a bad child that no one talks to me?" And Rowan and Rokari would cry with her. "Hey, do you remember this?" Rokari reached for the shelf nearby and nostalgically placed something in her lap. It was a small pair of shoes. The first shoes that Roxy ever wore. Aww. The first one that they had put on her. She always wanted to go outside. Now they thought about it, she'd always been an active child. Not necessarily a bright one, but she was always full of energy. She always acted on her impulse and never held back on what she wanted to do. Yeah, got that impression as well, that she would literally rush out there to try to go hang out with the others. I think that was kind of nicely portrayed in the manga, that she was constantly going out there and trying to communicate with the other kids. The shoes Rokari held bore several patches, evidence of many repairs. Ruiz had told them that Roxy would always go out on her days off, mingling with the human villagers, despite being a demon with an appearance that could easily be mistaken for a member of the dreaded Superb tribe. Ruiz proudly explained how she had made friends in the somewhat closed-off village, greeting people with smiles. Thinking of Roxy in that way, they realized that in a place where she could communicate using the same language, she must have felt truly free. In the Midgard village, many people used telepathy, but couldn't speak using words. Conversation with Roxy ended up being one-sided. But outside the village, where everyone she spoke to could reply, it must have felt like she was breaking free from her shackles. A human mage who once taught Roxy had told her that if you talk, they'll understand. Roxy must have believed in those words and acted upon them. Rowan looked around the home. It really does feel like this was wrote after Roxy gets serious, because it has a lot of, again, parallels here. And that was one of the things that I really liked getting into, is the fact that when she finally got to a big city, when she got away from the Midgard village, she almost felt regret for the idea of, it's nice that I can finally verbalize and talk to people and they can communicate back to me so easily. And I thought that'd be a good thing, but now I'm realizing that there's a lot of nasty people out there. It's not so great being able to communicate to everybody. Roman looked around their home. It was a typical Midgard house. Not particularly spacious, feeling cramped with just 2 or 3 people living there. There were memories of Roxy scattered all over the place. Roxy's shoes, her clothes, and her dishes were all kept without being discarded. It felt as if getting rid of them would erase her existence entirely. Aww. Teaching her magic in the land of humans. I can't imagine it. And she grew up into an adult who can even teach others. I can't imagine it either. Indeed. They only knew Roxy as a child, energetic, active, full of initiative, but isolated in the village, often had a gloomy look on her face rather than a smile. That was the Roxy they had remembered. They couldn't imagine a Roxy being admired by a human child saying, "Teacher Roxy is amazing." Yeah, I think they kind of gave that indication that they were a little bit shocked by what he was saying. And I think it was even kind of echoed in the later chapter when Roxy came back there with Lotta. You kind of get this sense that they were almost feeling like, oh, you married her? Why would you do that? But there was one person who made them think that perhaps Roxy had grown into such a person. It was a human magician who had inspired Roxy to run away from home. She was found collapsed outside the village. Roxy had discovered and nursed her back to health. They thought that she was an adventurer who gotten lost while on a quest in the area, but it turned out that she had come specifically to the Midgard village. Moreover, she claimed that she came here not for any particular reason, but just to see the Midgard tribe with her own eyes. She had come all the way to this remote village to see a race that she had never seen before, and their lifestyle and culture. She was a true eccentric, a genuine enthusiast. She was amazed and raised her voice in wonder at every house, field, and everything else in the Midgard village. Rowan and the other Midgards had never seen a human before, so they accepted her behavior as normal. But thinking back now, it was clear that she was a peculiar person. However, she was not a bad person. She stayed at Roxy's house, which was Rowan's house, and took good care of Roxy, teaching her many things. Rowan and Rokari, as parents, tried to teach Roxy as much as they could, but they were still Midgards. They were a tribe that didn't usually use spoken language. It was akin to learning a foreign language, and then using that foreign language to teach a child. It wasn't perfect. The traveling merchant was proficient in all sorts of languages, not only the demon language, but also the human language, beast god language, and even the fighting god language. And that's expected if she's traveling that much. Considering she had come to the depths of the demon continent, she was undoubtedly a top-notch adventurer. Such a person asked Roxy to guide her around the village while teaching her magic and languages. She taught Roxy everything Rowan and Rokari couldn't, and more. Because of that, Roxy left the village. If she had known what was outside the village, if she hadn't had the means to survive outside, even the reckless Roxy wouldn't have suddenly ran away from the village. Kind of interesting to kind of note that because with that woman taught Roxy. She had the confidence and the ability to leave. If not for Bloody Cant telling her all that stuff, she would have never left. It would be a lie to say they didn't resent that adventure. Okay, they got into it. They resent her. If she hadn't come, Roxy would have remained, albeit uncomfortably, by their side. Yeah, I kind of wonder she'd continue suffering. And the question mark would be, would she ever get over it, or would it lead to something bad? But if asked whether that would have made Roxy happy, they'd be at a loss for words. A basket came into view, about 30 centimeters in diameter. It was used for harvesting crops. It was too small for adults, but was once used by Roxy. At a certain age, Roxy started helping out in the village, helping with cleaning and harvesting in the fields, tasks that any village child would do. But for Roxy, it was tough. After all, not everyone who taught her those jobs had mastered spoken language. Only a few, like the village chief, could speak fluently. Half the villagers didn't know the language, and most who did could barely manage broken sentences. Because of this, it took Roxy a long time to learn her tasks, and even after she learned, she caused trouble several times. Each time, Rowan and Rokari had to apologize to the other villagers, explain the situation, and patiently teach Roxy what went wrong and what she did wrong. Thanks to their efforts, Roxy eventually managed to do her work properly and was accepted by the village, but the worry about her future always lingered. Since she could speak, she had a role to play. The Migard village wasn't completely self-sufficient. They had to buy weapons and traps for hunting from towns. For that, someone who could speak the language was necessary. So in the future, Roxy would have a role in the village. However, having a job and being able to live was two different things. Yeah, I think that was sort of implied there as well, that they had the village chief was able to, communicate to Rejerd, was able to, communicate to Rudius when he got there. And the assumption there is that, yes, technically, eventually, Roxy could fill that role. But I think it sort of implied the fact that Rowan was kind of in that realm too, that he was learning the spoken language, but that because he learned the spoken language for Roxy's sake, he could easily fill that role. And Roxy could have this role as well at the gate or whatever, or again, going out and buying stuff. There's a place for her, essentially. They're implying there is still a role for her in this village. So in the future, Roxy would have a role in the village. However, having a job and being able to live is two different things. They constantly worried what would happen to their daughter after they died. Would she get along with the villagers? If there was a problem, would anyone listen to her side of the story? Would she get kicked out? The days were filled with an unending anxiety about the future. When Roxy learned about magic and about the world outside the village from the traveling magician, they sensed that she might leave the village one day. When she disappeared without saying anything, it was a shock. They worried. They even searched for her, fearing that she might have had an accident and was unable to move, trapped in a blind spot of the village. That's... God damn, I didn't even think about that. I mean, it's expected. Again, she disappeared one morning. They don't even know that she went out traveling. I mean, the assumption there is that you're going to find that there's a bunch of stuff missing, that she would have grabbed some food or something like that, that there's signs that stuff is gone besides just her clothes, that there is a sense here that she went traveling. But she could have grabbed so little stuff that they can just be assumed that she's in the village. We can't find her where she at. They're not going to assume that she left. There could be a chance that she got eaten by, one of the little fly trap things that are guarding the plants or something like that. Or a pack of wolves came by and picked her up and just tore her up. Is she in a whale somewhere? That kind of stuff. But ultimately, they had to accept that she had just left on a journey. They wondered why. Why didn't she say anything? They thought about it for days. But gradually, they began to think, maybe this was for the best. If Roxy had said that she wanted to leave, they probably would have stopped her, probably even by force. But they weren't confident that staying in the village was the best thing for her. On the other hand, leaving wasn't necessarily bad. Though rare for Migard, it's common in other tribes for children to leave the village when they grew up, where they were inspired by heroes, or because of overpopulation. The reasons vary by village. That's a struggle they're obviously going to have. Girl's suffering here, and she leaves. Maybe it's a good thing. I mean, it's normal for other places. Why is it such a bad thing? She knows how to communicate. She should be fine. But it still sucks. It sucks that she didn't say anything. It just sucks that she didn't say anything. It's like, even that whole, chapter of her coming back to the village is like, it hurts. It hurts that she doesn't even want to talk to them much. And, shortly after getting there, she's like, okay, well, later. And she goes and leaves again. It isn't until, they start breaking down that she suddenly, stops and, spends some time with them. It's like she's so quick to get up and leave. Roxy was still young by Migard standards, but she could speak, do math, handle household chores, and use magic, albeit at basic level. In other words, she left when she was able to do the bare minimum. It wasn't like in other villages where children left to reduce the number of mouths to feed. So they began to tell themselves this was for the best. They convinced themselves that she probably found a job in Rikarisu or was traveling as an adventurer, managing to get by somehow. They never went looking for her or gathered information, because if they'd found that she'd died easily, they wouldn't be able to recover. Yeah, because if she left and died, then they did something wrong. They probably would feel like they caused her death. There wasn't a day they didn't want to know about Roxy's whereabouts. They always wanted to know where she was and what she was doing. They just didn't have the courage to find out. There had been no news for a long time. They thought there wouldn't be any until the day that they died. The likelihood of a child who left the village surviving to adults was low regardless of race. Most children die before reaching the city. They can't establish a stable life and perish. Even if they manage to stabilize their life, they are always close to danger. How many can survive for 10 years? Thinking about it, surely Roxy was already. That's what they had believed. Again, this is a demon continent. This place is harsh. And again, I even noted that in Roxy Gets Serious, the idea that when she left, it's like, I never really kind of dawned on me that that's actually like a very dangerous trip. Like, even just to get to the next village, that's extremely dangerous. Again, when Ruius was traveling across the demon continent, he had Rajerd was constantly going up ahead and killing things. Like, he was constantly there at their side. Anybody else, it's a death sentence. The likelihood of her even reaching town is very low. They never said it out loud and hoped it wasn't true, but it was always in the back of their minds as most likely possibility. So the information brought by Ruius was good news, more than he realized. Yeah. We can only be grateful to that traveling magician and to Rudius and his group. Interesting. They're now grateful to Kant. Interesting. The traveling magician has said that her homeland was on the other side of the world. She had said that it took a long time to reach the Midgard village. Ruius and his group had said something similar. So the human kingdom must be an incredibly distant place. And Roxy had traveled all the way to such a place. Surely she had seen many things. She must have seen and felt more than what the traveling magician had told her about, being moved by those experiences, sometimes disappointed, all the while honing her magic skills, gaining knowledge of many kinds, and teaching it to those younger than yourself, like the traveling magician had done. Maybe she had met the traveling magician again. I wonder if our daughter was able to properly thank her. That was a concern, but Roxy was capable of doing that. So she must have. What did she do after that? Did she stay on as Rudius' master? Or did she move on to another land for more adventures? By then, she must have grown into an adult who could make her own decisions and solve her own problems. Thinking about this filled Rowan with pride. Aww. It was a bit disappointing that she couldn't be exactly like him or his wife. But even so, he felt a deep sense of pride, knowing his daughter was doing her best in a distant land. I'd like to see her just once more before I die. Yes, I'd like to hear about her travels, what she's been doing all this time. Saying this, the two of them put their hands together. In their minds was an image of a young Roxy, little Roxy, telling them about her journeys, with them listening, sometimes feeling anxious, sometimes deeply angry, sometimes moved to tears. That was a scene that they envisioned. Oh. Again, I hate so much how disconnected they are. I always wanted like some really good bonding to happen between them. I mean, we kind of got it with the later kind of scene with them coming back, but still, it's like there's just a disconnection there. And again, a lot of it has to do with Roxy feeling so isolated from the family, and again, her entire tribe, her entire race. There's a disconnection there. There's an isolation that happened there that she did not feel comfortable with. And again, it's so interesting to see that when she went and traveling, she still ran into this issue where now she's able to communicate, and she's realizing it's not such a great thing. But I think in the end, she learned a lot. She had experiences. She went and explored things, and she put all these things to mind that now shape her who she is. And eventually that leads to, again, her becoming, part of Reese's life and them having a family and everything together. It's the things that you go through that shape your life and make you who you are. And there is an idea here that if she stayed in the Midgard village with that lack of communication and without the ability to sort of, form good experiences with people, instead always having bad experience with people, it would never shape her into anything positive. In the end, it's a good thing that she got out there. I just wish that there wasn't such a disconnection with at least her family who can communicate to her. It hurts. It hurts. Man, that's it. That's it, chat. That is the last story, the last side chapter that we're going to be going through for Mushoku Monday. And that, again, concludes our journey for now through the Mushoku Tensei series. It has been quite an insane journey, but yeah, like I said before, it has to come to conclusion eventually, and I'm glad that we got to end it on, while depressing. It's a little bit of like a bittersweet. It's bittersweet, but a very bittersweet story to kind of end things out. But again, we had to end it somewhere. But I hope you guys enjoyed it as always, chat. I'm thankful you guys joined me all the way until the very end of all these premieres. I thank you guys so much for your long time support and everything. It means a great deal to me. Like I said, next week we will come back for what I'm assuming, I'm pretty confident to say that we'll be having a live stream, which I will be going through, talking about my experiences going through the Mushoku Tensei series, chatting with you guys and getting your guys' feedback about this entire journey and talking a little bit about it. Again, anything that you guys wanted to, your burning questions and everything that you guys have for me, you can throw them there. I have been sort of, for the longest time, sort of been avoiding a lot of the comment sections of the Mushoku Mondays, and it's mainly been around the fact of not wanting spoilers and whatnot. I haven't gotten back quite yet to go look at everything, but it would be a good time to have that conversation with people if you guys have those questions and whatnot that I never got a chance to answer. We could do it then. And again, like I said before, I'll be doing tier listing of all the characters just to give an excuse to talk about the characters. It's not really so much to tier list it, it's more to go, okay, here's this character, and talk about them as we go through and tier list them. And, put certain characters like Roxy and Orsted in S tier. It's a necessity. But again, chat, thanks again. You guys are absolutely amazing. It has been a long journey. But until next week, until the live stream and all that stuff, I greatly appreciate you guys' support, all your kind words. And again, greatly appreciate by support channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super links, memberships, all that stuff. Thank you. Until next week, until the live stream, you'll take care. Paul's like, I want to get this done. I didn't really get it, but it seemed